It is Friday on the Call Sheet Daily Podcast, and that can mean only one thing. It is time for our Hot Route conversation with Pez's Picks and me, Coach Kevin Smith. Welcome to our show and to another episode, conversations about sports and life with Pez, who is up in the beautiful mountain area right now, a beautiful background for those who can't see. He's sitting with a mountain over his shoulder there. Welcome, Pez. Morning.
It's Pico Mountain right over my shoulder, Coach. An old school family, kind of old skier mountain. The lifts are slow. It seems to be cold. Every lift you take, it gets colder by the minute. Wonderful baseball bar down there. A guy named Tom bartends, a guy who has a little connection to your hometown, but love that guy, love that mountain. Get to Pico, get to Killington. Got to get out, got to clean the head out a little bit before we get into this NFL season. Numbers, data, players, then we'll pick our head up in February after the Super Bowl.
You know, one of my earliest memories in my life was being about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years old. A little family trip. We went up with another family up to the Killington area, and we did some hiking up and around Pico Mountain. I was terrified for years because there's a photograph, I still have it, of my dad kneeling down he's like near the edge of the cliff. And I'm like 5 and my sister's like 3 and you know, he's kneeling down and he's kind of hugging both of us, but he's probably 5 feet away from the cliff. But in my little mind, he was going to fall off the cliff. And I literally used to have dreams of my dad falling over the cliff at Pico Mountain. So, you know, thanks for traumatizing me by bringing that back up.
Well, we could dig deep into this dream, Coach. I'm sure there's some psychoanalyzing, but those cliffs are what we call jumps in the ski world. Those are the ones we go after. We hike that mountain all summer. You got mountain biking, you've got canoeing, doing a little camping in Gifford State Park tonight. Kid wants to practice some survival skills, Coach. He's big on survival shows. He's going to hollow a canoe out of a tree. He's going to make fire with flint, and he's going to craft his own shelter tonight, all of which I think equals him, you know, hanging out with me in the tent. But we'll see. Maybe this guy's got it in him. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I have with my kid.
That's a perfect segue, actually, a perfect segue, because we're going to start the conversation today by remembering one of the most interesting events in American history. Today, August 15th, is the anniversary, I'd have to do the math, I'm going to say maybe 56, 57 years now, of the original Woodstock Festival. On this day in 1969, the Woodstock Festival kicked off in Bethel, New York. And it's a fascinating event because you had a festival that was put together expecting 25 or 30,000 people. And ultimately about 400,000 showed up. And it became a statewide emergency. They had to call it the National Guard to try to, you know, move people in and out of that remote area. But people, you know, in tents, camping out, 3 days of music. It poured rain for 2 of them, which turned the place into a mud fest. And yet somehow they pulled it off in the midst of a very tumultuous time in America, the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement and race riots and poverty riots. I mean, that was a tough time in America. But Woodstock is remembered as this moment where people felt hopeful. You know, like if we pulled together, then we could do it as a country or as a people. So first, let's start with this. What are your, when you think about the Woodstock Festival, what are your remembrances or what are the things that come to mind?
Drive by it, you know, countless times, Coach. We coming from the Atlantic City, Cape May area up to Killington. We go right by that town. The field now is just a farm field. There's barely a plaque to celebrate it. What I think about watching that as a young kid is, when am I getting there, Coach, right? Am I going to get to a rock show that's as crazy as that? You name it, there was something at that show. The weird thing about it, I like watching those old videos and tapes. You could have gone to that show in a pair of Dockers and a short sleeve button down tucked in with a leather belt looking like your casual Friday. You could have been walking naked. You could have been a Hell's Angel. The beginning of swag and being cool. Cool clothing got invented in that decade, Coach. Prior to that, you dressed like your parents on Casual Friday to go to school. I talked to my parents about it. You got sent home with a T-shirt. I mean, they're in their late 80s, so grew up outside of Philly a little bit. Public school, you got sent home with a T-shirt. I contend that concert gave us cool youth clothing, gave us rebellion, but controlled anarchy is what I liked about it. We don't need to be punching each other. We don't need to be assaulting each other. You could walk into the show and go, "Hey, I don't have a ticket. I'm just going to walk in. Love you too." That need to get back to that a little bit here, Coach. Enough of the violence. Enough of the anger. We're up here in the mountains. We do kumbaya on this show a lot. I'm going to get that campfire tonight. We're going to do kumbaya. Controlled anarchy is what we need to get back to for the youth. No more stealing. No more violence. Let's get away from that. It's ugly. It's not pleasant. If that show was a pleasant anarchy, like I don't know if we'll ever have again.
No, we won't, because it was also a scenario where everyone was cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, they literally had to fly in, they had to helicopter in supplies because there wasn't enough food and water for everyone. The bathroom facilities were awful. Again, they planned for about 30,000 people. They got 10 times that amount. But obviously today, with the way social media is and everybody with the phones, you're never disconnected from anything. And so you had this massive crowd that was disconnected and had to figure it out on their own. And I think that's something of great value. The notion that you're going to be thrown into a situation for which you're unprepared and figure it out on your own. There's a lot of value there. And I don't think we see that as much anymore. There's a lot of romanticism too about the 60s, particularly from people maybe our age, the Generation Xers. Oftentimes you look at like the era you grew up in and you romanticize it, but you also sometimes romanticize previous eras. What if you had to pick a decade in American history where you think like this would have been a great time to grow up? This would have been prime America. What would it be, man? Think back. What's a great decade where you feel like, hey, man, I wish I'd grown up then?
But before we leave, Coach, I'm gonna give it to you with a question here. If you were at that Woodstock show, which guy would you have been? You the guy in the Dockers, the button down, you a biker guy, you kind of a fusion, Dockers, hippie guy, or are you one of these naked guys? I'm seeing a naked guy out of you, Coach. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing bohemian, naked Coach KT walking around in the mud, a naked mud guy. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it out of you. I think it's in you. I don't think you've unleashed it yet.
Yeah, I don't think I was a naked guy, Pez. I mean, I would put you far more, and definitely your wife, far more in the naked column. I was not a Dockers guy. I was probably a dude who showed up there wanting to see some good music, and then maybe by the third day I was doing mudslides. I don't know. We'll see.
Coach KT, OnlyFans, Mud Guy, Woodstock. We're getting that channel going on FFSN, Coach. All right, we're gonna get back to it. I'm going to work on it with the management this week. I don't know if it's going to sell, but I think you got something there for you.
All right, let's make that the first and last time that I'm ever linked to OnlyFans. Right? That's not a seller.
Couple decades.
All right.
I'd like to go back to. I think the late 1800s in the Wild West, Coach. I could see playing poker with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, as long as I had some money. You don't have money living in those Wild West days. It's beyond filthy. I watch these shows. These people didn't brush their teeth. They didn't shower. Not in a good way, dirty sex, but the dirtiest sex you could ever have. It is abusive to the human body. But if you had money and you could have bought one of those little casinos, one of those mining towns. I go skiing out in all these towns now. I walk around and think about it. I don't know the gun coach. I'm not a big gun guy. But if I was living out there, 2 guns on either hip going to play poker, I don't think there's anything cooler than that. I don't know why. I don't want to kill anybody, but wearing a gun to a poker table sounds legit to me. I'll take 1880, 1890, living out in Colorado, Arizona, one of those border towns. I need a horse. I'll probably call the horse Eagle. We're going to stick with the football here. Eagle, maybe a white horse like George Washington. I don't know. I don't know if that's cool or not, but late 1800s. And I'd like to fight a grizzly. If it was attacking me, Coach, and make a bear coat out of a grizzly. I don't think you should kill animals. But if it's coming after me in those days, I'm taking that grizzly down and wearing a bear coat around. Nothing cooler than that.
DiCaprio and the Revenant. I love it. Yeah, you would have been dead before the age of 40, however, if you live out in the Wild West. So I guess live hard and die young, go with that philosophy. I'm fortunate for the decade we grew up in the 1980s, because it was the dawn of the technological age. And we got to live with the kind of like a foot in both worlds, the pre-technological world, the old school telephone attached to the cord that was mounted on the wall, versus like the world that we live in now. We got to live through the transition from one to the next. I think it taught us a lot of different skills to be able to navigate both those worlds. I think the 1980s was also a time really where you, for the most part, like you were optimistic. You felt like anything was possible. There were still some strands of the Cold War there. There was still talk that maybe the United States and the Soviet Union would bomb each other into oblivion. The movie The Day After came out when I was like maybe a freshman in high school, scared the crap out of everybody, which was a movie about the day after a nuclear war and, the stragglers of the human race living in a nuclear holocaust. I mean, those movies get turned into, things like The Walking Dead and The Last of Us these days, but still, it feels like we have some perspective being able to have lived in both worlds. So I'm grateful for that.
I'm going the opposite route. No tech, cut off from the world, Grand Canyon, Arizona, living in Tucson. And you brought up my wife. She'd be great. I mean, Doc Holliday, he had a sidekick lady, always ready to kill somebody if they crossed their man. That's my wife, Coach. Sicilian. Always has a knife on her. I don't know why. I don't know if it's in her roots. I don't know if she was born with one or what, but I'm terrified of her. To be able to pull a gun out and blow a guy away who just stole money from you at a card table, I don't think there's anything purer than that. That's the American way. To not know what country you're in. You're in border area. Am I in Mexico? Am I in Native American country? Am I to be able to go put a stake in the ground and say, this is my land. If I'm going to be able to protect it, I love it, Coach. I'm going back to that, but I'm going to need a couple of things. I'm going to need to shower. I mean, I think this is a very important thing for humans, so I'm going to need to be rich. Toilet paper. I don't know if it was invented yet. If not, I'm going back and I'm inventing that. Has there ever been a better creation than toilet paper? I learned about this during COVID. That's all you need, canned food and toilet paper. Without it, we're animals, Coach. I don't know. I don't know what was happening before then. I don't want to know. But I'm channeling Doc Holliday. I'm going back to that. To hell with the tech, even though I hope everybody watches this show every week. All right, technology is great. Podcast is great.
I know. Come on, man. You're biting the hand that feeds you right now, Pez. You're right about toilet paper. It helped the downfall of the Soviet Union. I mean, one of the biggest reasons
Disgusting.
The Soviet citizens rose up against the Communist Party was the lack of toilet paper. Shoes and toilet paper. Those are basic necessities. They had lots of bombs. They didn't have enough shoes and toilet paper.
I spent about 10 days in Russia, Coach, about 6-7 years ago. And a place that borders modern luxury world and borders peasant village world. They shut the air conditioning off in the middle of the night in these hotels. Woke up sweaty every night. I'd go down and talk to the people. They would tell me to my face, I don't like America. I don't know why, Coach. I didn't do anything to these Russians. I think I have Russian roots. Crazy language over there, too. Bad toilet paper is what I'm getting to. They still have bad toilet paper. You need nice toilet paper. It's one thing I'm learning from Hard Knocks. I can't remember the guy's name. He's a journeyman, a wide receiver. Brought his own toilet paper to training camp. Genius move. I'll be taking some tonight in case we have an emergency, Coach. When you go on a road game, you got to take your home supplies. I'll be taking some of my camping trip tonight.
Yeah, that's how we know that we're not really tough enough to live in the Wild West, Pez. Because, they were wiping their butt with burlap, I think,
disgusting.
Back then, so, yeah. So, all right. Hey, talking about toughness. Let's talk about toughness real quick. Tomorrow, it is John Gruden's birthday. John Gruden, legendary NFL coach, a guy who has made his reputation as being one of the toughest, most demanding coaches. Still a player's coach. His players enjoy playing for him despite the fact he's extremely tough on them and demanding, not in a belittling way, but in a way I believe that a lot of those players feel is designed to get the best out of them. So here's my question to you. In thinking about John Gruden and his style of coaching, and you think back on as an athlete, I mean, you played all the sports growing up, you were a college soccer player. Did you like coaches that were hard and tough and demanding, or did you resonate more with kind of the the feel-good coach who wanted to clap everybody up?
I think there's a big difference. You can be a fake tough guy coach, which I don't think any player hates or likes. I think players hate the fake tough guy coach who's just running their mouth, who never did anything. You have to be a tough player's coach to be liked. You got to be someone that's willing to get in your player's face, but they know you're going to have their back, whether it's against the league, against the refs, the other team. I think Gruden had that. I one time had beers at the same bar with the guy. Seemed like a man's man. Interesting character, a big case this week. He's suing it over his email leak. And a guy that a lot of people have debated. I heard a great piece from Stephen A. Smith this week. I grew up in a black community, Coach, so I'm never going to pretend to be a black guy, but Stephen A. Smith explained, maybe this guy deserves a second chance. Said some horrible things, said some derogatory things about black Americans, about women. But maybe in America, you get a second chance because there isn't a belief Gruden is a racist. Maybe he was speaking out of line in a way that used to be acceptable, and something that maybe we need to address as a country, be a little bit more tolerant. Nobody wants to be have someone joking around about him. Maybe if he was in the presence of somebody, you could joke around a little about that in a man's world or a locker room. Having said that, I don't know where his situation is going to leave him. I don't know if he can control a locker room and get the respect that he used to. When you have that stain on you, it's a hard thing to kind of shake. I think Gruden needs to come out and speak about it, needs to apologize, needs to say those remarks were in jest or in joking, and they were bad jokes, and maybe get him back in the league. A great coach over the last 25, 30 years, one of the best commentators I've ever heard. Brother, I've spent some time with his brother, another kind of man's man coach, by the whole bar around. But at the end of the day, I think the league could be better with Gruden in there. We could have a good moment in this league where we say, time to move on from this old thinking. We're being a little bit of racist or stereotypical is funny. People, maybe we're beyond that as a society now. Not talking about canceling people, but maybe giving people a second chance. And Stephen A. Smith is willing to give Gruden a second chance. Pez's Picks is willing to give Gruden a second chance too. I kind of miss him. I think we miss his energy, and I know the players that played for him really liked him and would miss him too.
He made some noise this week about wanting to coach in college. He said, I'd love to coach in the SEC. You got Belichick in college. Maybe you'll get John Gruden in college. Probably those waters might be a little easier for him to navigate right now. And maybe that would be his transition back into the NFL. But as far as coaching styles go, I always responded better to the coaches who were tougher on me. I agree with your point about fake tough guys, and then you've got the toughness. I mean, the toughness that doesn't lead to anything constructive or positive. We grew up in an era where if coaches weren't yelling at you, they weren't coaching you. I'll never forget my high school football coach. I just remember watching. We were doing something, and one of our players was in a 3-point stance, and I guess his coach didn't like his stance. His butt was too low, and he took a 5-yard running start and from behind him and kicked him in the ass and yelled, get your butt up. But he didn't. He kind of overextended his foot and didn't quite catch him in the butt. Caught him somewhere else. I'll let you figure that out. And that kid went down like he got shot and rolled around on the ground for a good 2-3 minutes. Nobody addressed him. All we did was we moved the practice up 10 yards so he wouldn't get trampled on. The kid rolled around like he was dying. And you get arrested for that today. There's nothing positive about that. But I'm not talking about that kind of coaching. It's the kind of coaching where the coaches expected something out of you. They set a standard for you. They demanded that you meet it. And if you didn't, they were tough on you. I liked that. I don't know. It motivated me in some way. It either pissed me off or it made me want to do better. I think there's still room for that type of coaching so long as you understand or the players understand you care about them. And that, you love them up, man. You can rip them down, man, but you got to build them back up.
Coach, I had a high school coach named Tom Miller, legendary South Jersey soccer guy, since passed away, Vietnam guy, tough as nails, opened a lot of doors for me in the coaching world and the soccer world. In high school, we knew that guy had our back more than my own dad had my back. He was in someone's face. He was ready to fight someone for you, tough as nails. We knew when we got caught cutting class, he wasn't sending us to office. He was dropping somebody, okay? So my buddies and I, we go to McDonald's. We skip a period. We sneak out, get in the car, come back. We're creeping back in the building. We open the door, and I looked at my friend. I sense him. Next thing I know, I saw my buddy's bottom of his feet. He got decleated, punched to the chest. I just start running, Coach. I'm running from an old man down my hallway laughing. And he yells out, Pez, I'm going to kick your ass in practice. I showed up at practice early. I was doing sprints. Never said another word about it. I think my friend cried a little bit, but he limped back to class. We played our ass for that guy. If a ref, another fan, a coach, he was the first guy to get in their face and get our back. Kind of tough guy that you want. You want someone that if you give your all, which is the hardest thing in sports, right? I talk about it with young kids all the time that are playing. The hardest thing to do is to give 110% of yourself and risk finding out that you're not that good. But if you do that, you can still find a place on the team. I hate when I see talented athletes that give about 60 to 75, 80% because they're afraid to fail. They always want to have the excuse, I wasn't giving my all. That is the chump sissy way out in sports today. You need someone that makes you feel protected and safe enough to give everything, coach. And not to go full circle, kind of like you in this Woodstock thing, to walk around naked in the mud. Same thing. You got to be able to say, to hell with it. I'm going out there. I'm going to show who I am. And Coach, we're all for you here at FFSN. I can't wait for this OnlyFans to come out. We're going to work on that this week.
How do we get from trying to hold your players accountable to me being naked in the mud again? I want to move on from this subject. All right, we're going to wrap the show up with this, Pez. NFL Week 2 of the preseason is upon us. Have you seen anything, or did you see anything in Week 1 that maybe makes you change your mind a little bit about your expectations for this upcoming season?
A lot of question marks with the Green Bay Packers. And, I know it's his offhand, some surgery on Jordan Love's pinky. I don't even know what the hell's going on there. It looked rough in his opening series. I know it's only 5 throws, but didn't look too hot. I've got question marks in Chicago. I think this year, we talked about it the last couple of years on Pez's Picks, the quarterback position is literally the only position. You cannot succeed in this league anymore unless you have an elite quarterback with some sort of elite skills, pocket passer, able to run, able to do both like a Jalen Hurts. Without it, I feel like these teams are just wrapping it up. At the same time, I love this Hard Knock show. I hope the Philadelphia Eagles never get a coach. I think it's a curse. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are over the top, kissing their quarterback's ass to the point that maybe it's a little unhealthy for the team. I mean, there's a point where you have to protect your quarterback, MVP, Superman Allen. I love the guy. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. But you still got to have him treated the same in the locker room as everybody else. You got to have an intensity. You can't have everybody walking around touching the Messiah saying, I love you. So that's something I'm looking at. I'm starting to question a little bit about the success of the Buffalo Bills this year. I think they're going to win a lot of games, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is getting treated like that in Pittsburgh. I don't think Lamar gets treated like that in Baltimore. I think they're protected, but they're still one of the dudes, and you got to have a toughness in that camp that I don't know if I'm seeing in Buffalo. And that's something that we look for. I think you need a Dan Campbell. You need a coach that's going to get in. He's going to do the drills with you. He's going to make the intensity, not to hurt guys, but be able to get in there. And you're fighting for your job, right? I mean, you know better than I do in football. You are fighting to keep your job, whether it's against your own team or on the field. It's a fight. I mean, football is literally a fight every play. So I question toughness and I question quarterback play right now. And that's something we're looking for in a lot of these preseason games.
Yeah, you're right about the quarterback position. It just feels as though it increases in importance every year in the NFL. The poor Cleveland Browns, my buddy Coach Stefanski, man. Now Shedeur Sanders got hurt at practice on Wednesday. I mean, it just... You got Dylan Gabriel, the rookie, out with a hamstring injury. You got Kenny Pickett, the guy they traded for, out with an injury. You got Shedeur Sanders now out with an injury. I mean, 40-year-old Joe Flacco is just sitting back watching all the guys fall by the wayside. It's going to be his football in Week 1 for the Browns.
I think the worst thing to happen to Stefanski and the Browns was Shedeur having a little success, and I know it was against the second team, but there's a lot of tape out here of him making plays. I know as a coach, you're looking at him probably a little bit differently, and as a gambler, I am too. He sailed a couple balls, probably should have turned the ball over a couple times, couple loose plays, running around out there athletically. He's obviously gifted, like his dad, but I don't think he's an NFL quarterback yet. I think Stefanski is in a horrible position. He's going to put Flacco out there. If Flacco has a bad game, you're going to hear calls from management, ownership, Dion, the internet, put in Primetime Junior. Gabriel, in my opinion, probably a better passer right now, probably a better NFL pedigree quarterback, but we don't know how any of these guys are until they get out there. But I honestly think that the Browns are in a horrible situation. Great defense. I think it would have been better if Shedeur struggled a little bit. You go in saying, Joe Flacco's our quarterback. Give him 5 or 6 weeks, let these guys kind of see the action. I don't know what's going to happen in Cleveland, but trust me, Coach, and I like that Stefanski. I hate to say it. We're going to be betting against that team a lot in the early season. Lock that up.
I can't. Coach Stefanski, I do not sign off
Sorry,
on that
buddy.
opinion. I'm with you.
Dollar bills and Pez's Picks. Now, I bet against my mom if we were making money on it.
I don't know if I've ever seen a team with a worse quarterback situation over the last couple of years. The moment they signed Deshaun Watson, it's like they cast a plague on that position in Cleveland, although they've been bad at that position for a long time with the Browns.
I wonder if it was his decision, right? I think management probably got involved.
Yeah.
There's no great head coach that's picking 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks. Well, I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but I like Stefanski. If things don't work out, we'll take him in Philly, coach. That guy's a winner. I like that guy a lot.
He's a Philly guy.
I love that.
Those are his roots.
Love that guy.
All right, Pez, enjoy your camping trip, and I hope you survive the mountain. I hope you don't have to fight a bear. It's going to be a great experience for you and your boy.
Got to lock up the food, coach. You got to hang it from a tree or lock it away in a cooler in the car. A bear can smell food like a mile away, which I still contend is hard. How do they know this, right? What test did they determine the bear can smell this food? But I hope I don't find out tonight. We'll be all right. We got weapons. We got all kinds of stuff, coach. We're prepared. Get prepared before you go in the wild. Don't look for supplies when bad things happen, because they always do.
You can live your 1800s fantasy.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So for Pez's Picks, this is Kevin Smith. This has been our hot route conversation on Fridays, every Friday here at the Call Sheet Daily. Join me again on Monday for a new week of shows. Until then, enjoy your preseason football, everyone. Take care.